Hey everyone, it's Kayla Klinge, your fave. We're back doing some videos again. We're going to be talking to some New Yorkers, complaining about the cold weather. We're doing all the things. But today we are joined by a dear friend of mine, Wright. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
How was your journey to Brooklyn?
My journey from Brooklyn, to Brooklyn from the Bronx, as always, very interesting.
Yeah.
You know, had a quick delay in the Bronx, which made me
How
feel
quick
like,
was that delay though?
Well, it was two of them. One at the actual station where I got on. It took 11 minutes for the train to leave, which kind of, took some of my buffer time away.
Right.
And then when I got into Manhattan, it was another delay before I left the 6 to the 5 train, which would then take me express to the C train.
Gotcha.
So there was a delay on the express.
Right.
Kind of felt like I could have just stayed on the local.
Right, literally.
And then when I got into actual Brooklyn, then there was a delay on the C train.
Of course.
And so I was worried that I wasn't going to make it on time.
Yeah.
But here I am.
Well, you actually beat me because I was also on another C train that was very late, and I think I was behind you. And before we even got to this place of being here and being comfortable in these chairs, I actually went through my biggest fear, which is getting stuck in the subway, but specifically underneath one of the rivers. I was stuck between Manhattan and Brooklyn underneath the East River before getting here, which was terrifying. It was only like maybe 5 minutes, but I don't know. I mean, you just never know what's going to happen. And I was very fortunate and lucky. There was at least room on the subway card, and so no crazies on it. But God forbid, when you're in those situations and you have someone crazy running up and down, it's a whole different story.
Oh, when I found out that you were behind me on the trains, I was like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah.
Because I often like to get places early, get the lay of the land, relax a little bit.
Right.
But when I looked at my watch, I said, I'm going to get there just in time.
Yeah.
But I still was here.
No, you did amazing.
So,
no, you're doing great. But something I wanted to talk about was, we're in the year 2024, and I couldn't help but notice recently we're having some similarities to the year 2020. First, we had the same teams in the Super Bowl. We had the same winner, the Kansas City Chiefs. Boo, I hate them. I don't know how you feel about them. Not their fan. But and then it looks like we're probably going to have the same candidates for the presidential election this year as we did from 2020, which is also a little scary and uneasy. But what are your thoughts on everything I just said? Could you handle maybe another quarantine? And, like 2.5 weeks from now?
Well, see, my relationship with quarantine is very interesting.
Okay.
Because for me, quarantine was some of the best years of my life.
Yeah.
It, on every level, it just provided me with an opportunity. See, my world is always kind of really noisy, right? Some of the things I battle with my mental health. And it was something about quarantine that created this level of safety that I was able to focus. And for me, it was absolutely the best 2 financial years of my life.
Yeah.
And it just, that opportunity to slow down, I was able to reevaluate every single aspect of my life, create kind of the script of what I would want my life to be moving forward.
Oh, I like that.
So could I handle another quarantine? Let's just say,
you're not against it.
I'm not against it.
No, I'm in the same boat with you. Me and my boyfriend will even talk about it. Sometimes it would just be nice if there was like no one on the streets right now or no one on the sidewalks, none of the tourists, and it was just like peace and quiet in the city. Because, I don't know if when we'll ever see New York City like that again with no one on the streets and just no cars or anything. You could just like waltz in the middle of the street if you wanted to.
Yeah. It definitely had its advantages and disadvantages.
Right.
And that's basically one of the main principles I look at life. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages?
Yeah.
So on one hand, as I talked about how, I was able to, create the sense of safety and I had tremendous financial success. There were some periods where I was really lonely, maybe got in my head a little too much.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. No, we're going to dive.
There were times I thought I was going to chew my foot off.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And so in those moments, I just tried to find things to do to distract me from being in quarantine. Go for a walk, tend to my plants, talk to my fish.
Everyone became a plant person.
Everybody became a plant person. And I promise
Even
you
our
today,
own plant today.
I promise you today, I can barely keep a plant alive. I don't know what happened. I went from having over 250 plants in my house
Are you kidding?
to my 12 strong survivors. I don't know what happened.
250 to 12.
Yeah.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
it might be because I tried to, create my own fertilizer.
Okay, gotcha.
And so it was at that moment, maybe I should have just used the regular fertilizer.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe I won't be asking you how to keep plants alive. You're not good on, you don't have a green thumb.
I thought I did. I mean, there was a
tried.
moment where people were calling me the plant dad.
Oh,
And I
really?
was very proud of it, maybe too proud of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was buying I had 250 plants.
Oh, yeah, I'm still in a New York City apartment,
In
too.
a New
It's
York
not
City
like you
apartment.
had, a 5,000 square foot home and like acres of land, right?
No, but I pretended I did.
I love it. Let's focus on you. You were born and raised in the Bronx, and you currently still live in the Bronx, yes?
I do. Mm-hmm.
So for my friends that are non-New Yorkers, how would you best describe the Bronx, and like how does it compare to the other boroughs for those that aren't familiar with it?
Well, the biggest thing that I know and notice about the Bronx is that, unlike the other boroughs, when you cross over from Manhattan to the Bronx, you actually go to the worst parts first.
Oh, okay.
And although I was born and raised in the Bronx, I'm not going to the South Bronx.
Yeah.
I don't have any real reason to be there. And I tell people just quickly breeze through,
Yeah.
stay away from it. But the Bronx, like most neighborhoods, it's about neighborhoods, right? There's sections. You have your good parts, you have your bad parts.
Right.
And I've been blessed and lucky enough to pretty much live in the good to kind of good parts.
Yeah.
And I would go to some of the bad parts to visit, friends and maybe some family. But the Bronx, as you go further north where I grew up,
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, let's talk about growing up. I mean, how was it growing up in the Bronx? Because I mean, I'm sure it's very different today than it was, even just 10 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting question because had I not left the 4 square miles, I always say I grew up in 4 square miles.
Okay.
The world was just totally different before that,
Right.
right? It's how I saw the world was through the experiences and the people and things around me and then what I saw on TV. But at around 17, 18, because I used to travel with a few music groups and sing, just some of the people I was able to meet, I got off the block. And then when I got off the block, I started seeing the world through a whole new different lens.
Yeah.
And you just find out, let's just say, some of the things you see on TV, or maybe the things your interesting, angry grandmother might tell you, it's not the truth about everyone in the world.
Right.
And it gave me when I got off the block, it gave me the opportunity to start treating people like individuals.
Gotcha.
And not categorizing people based on maybe some of the influences of the adults in my life.
Right.
Or the things that I saw on TV,
Okay.
Yeah,
no, I get that.
But the Bronx is like any other neighborhood. It has its good, it has its bad.
Right.
It's just all in, where you're positioned in it and how you process and live it through.
Right, exactly. And how would you compare it from like the Bronx when you were a child to today's time? Because I feel like it's that next borough, just from like a real estate standpoint, it's kind of blowing up. I've even had buyers of mine where we started our search in Manhattan and then they were like, wait, why was I looking at studios when I could get 2 bedrooms and maybe a nice balcony with a view in the Bronx? Like that sounds a little bit better for some people.
Well, yeah, it goes back to my first point about the Bronx. Still today, when you leave Manhattan, you're still getting the worst parts, but that initial, like right over the Willis Avenue Bridge,
Yeah.
that's all developing now. So I see what's happening to the Bronx is like it's being squeezed. Mm-hmm. On one end, like I said, the further you go north, it's nicer. It's just kind of that South Bronx area.
Yeah.
But when you come out of Manhattan, it's also getting nicer. So I feel like the Bronx is in that squeeze.
Gotcha.
And in my neighborhood, I live in Parkchester now. That's not where I grew up. I grew up on the 2 train on 221st.
Okay. I
we
know
called
where that is.
We called it Little Kingston, Little Jamaica. I got
Yeah.
a lot of Caribbean, West Indian friends.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, they called me a Jafaican or a Jamaican. But when I look at the Bronx as a whole, it's definitely developing.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested to see what that means
Right.
overall for the Bronx reputation in general.
I would say, again, from a real estate standpoint, once you start seeing the Whole Foods and the Targets popping up, then I feel like that's when you really start seeing the change.
Oh, I knew it was getting serious. There's a Starbucks on the corner of our block. I'm like, and so it begins.
Yeah, okay, now we're
Right?
going
I'm
up.
like, and
right.
so it begins.
And here comes all the prices. Everything's
I'm like-
just going to raise.
Yes. I've been now in my apartment just about 16 years.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I've seen the development, right? It slowed down like most things did during quarantine.
Right.
And that can be scary because a lot of times when you start a development in something like a pandemic or just when you see construction start and then stop, it can be scary because it's like, is that just going to be a ditch?
Right,
It's just
exactly.
going to be a hole?
And it's just kind of frustrating just to look at.
Absolutely.
Pass by it, and all the rats, and God forbid, the homeless people that are squatting
Don't get me
there.
started on the rats.
Right.
I feel like they have an attitude problem. Like I did something to them.
Right. You're in their territory,
It's
actually.
like, there's enough room for all of us.
Right,
You
scoot
know,
over.
I'll leave the lid off for you in the alleyway. And so there was the excitement
Right.
before as it was starting, because what it meant for me and my kids and, you know, just getting people to come to my neighborhood. And then when it stopped, I often wondered, are they going to pick this back up or just abandon it? Because I've also seen them abandon a lot of projects,
Oh, yeah.
you know, projects in places like the Bronx,
Yeah.
where I grew up. But all those projects are up and running.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, you know, so the change is there,
Yeah.
you know, so
We'll see in a few years what that skyline looks like, because that's, I think, the telltale sign. When you start seeing the skyline change, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
there's some different stuff happening over there.
so, you know, change is always bittersweet.
Yeah.
Because what change means displacement.
Exactly. You're probably a little uncomfortable at
Yeah.
first, but it could be very rewarding on the other side once you get through it and complete it.
Absolutely.
So I want to switch gears and discuss your business, which is Core Remastered. So why don't you tell us what you do and what is Core Remastered?
What is Core Remastered? So I've been in the health and wellness space now for over 25 years.
Wow.
January made about, I think, 26 years.
Okay.
Been in the health and wellness space. And I started out just a trainer, nationally certified. And for about 10 years, I did strictly personal training. And it was about at that 10-year mark, because I had been, you know, going through and dealing with some of my own like emotional stuff.
Right.
I'd started going to therapy, and while in therapy, I started learning more about myself. And because of that, I was able to start identifying more things within my clients. So then I realized it has to be much deeper than just squats,
Right.
right? When people come to me and say, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds, and I used to be like, well, what's on the other side of this 10 pounds?
Yeah.
So it was during that process of holding a holistic space for my clients that I began to see a deeper opportunity.
Right.
And so I implemented that holistic approach.
Okay.
You know, and then for many years, people would say, you should be a life coach. You should be a
Yeah.
life coach. You do so much more for your clients.
Right.
And it was a resistance for a while.
Yeah.
So I was like, what is a life coach? What does a
Yeah.
life coach do?
Right.
You know, I used to think of life coaching as fake therapy.
Yeah, I've actually kind of like heard that too.
You know, and so when I was able to go to school and become certified and learn exactly what a life coach could be, then I was able to begin to implement those into the work that I do. And so I went from being a personal training into personal development. So I took the combination of my certifications as a trainer and the certification I achieved as a life coach and created my holistic brand, Core Remastered.
Gotcha.
And basically it's about mastery from the inside out.
I love that.
And so as a life coach, what I do is I help people identify and remove blocks or barriers that are stopping them for either creating the life they want or enjoying the life they already have.
Right. I love that. And let me ask you this. What was it where you were like, you know what? I really want to go help all these other people in the world, you know? Because, I mean, I think just even working on yourself, I mean, that takes time and that can be quite a journey, you know? So then to do it with other people is probably, you know, on a whole nother level. You have to deal with different personalities. So what made you go, you know what? Helping other people, that's what I want to do.
Well, I'm a product of this product. You know, growing up, and I'm going to speak to it in what I understood at the time.
Okay.
I was going through some stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I had anger management issues, just a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, just a lot of really dark, bad thoughts. And I would go to people, and I grew up in the church environment, and I would go and I would ask for help, and no one had the answers for me. If anything, I was told to, you know, let go and let God.
Yes.
And
I've heard that.
And that hope served me for a long time until it didn't. And then that hope just turned to resentment
Gotcha.
and into anger. So there was some really dark years where I felt really lost and just really dark.
Right.
And it wasn't until I finally got introduced to therapy and later coaching that I began, you know, I was able to start finding those answers that I never got, you know, growing up.
Right.
And so when I had the opportunity to hold the same space for other individuals, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm passionate about what I do because I know what it's done for me. And so I will continue to do this as long as I'm in my own right mind.
Yeah. And let me ask you this, because this is always something because I have a therapist and I always just sometimes think about, I mean, do you have like your people that you go to? Because I would assume when you're hearing about a lot of your clients' issues and what they're going through, I'm sure like there's some stuff you hear and it's like kind of weighs on you and you're just like, wow, that person's really going through it. I feel so bad. So do you kind of have like your own support system or your team that you go to be like, unload to or, just to help you get through it?
Oh, I got a few ways of answering that question.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
So, absolutely.
Yes.
Right? Before I went to school to become certified as a life coach, I kind of picked up a lot of resentment as being just a trainer. And I say just a trainer because even though I begun to try to implement the things I was learning from my cognitive behavior therapist that I was working with, there was a lot of resistance.
Right.
Right? And so that created resentment in me because I'm like, I can help you. Just listen to me. Do what I tell you.
Yeah.
You've been trying to lose 10 pounds for 10 years. It's not, it's not the carbohydrates.
Right.
Because you haven't lost 10 ounces.
Yeah.
There was, it was through therapy that someone helped me understand that they don't come to you for that.
Right.
Your clients come for you because of what you create for them, the safe place for them to talk about things. It was still hard for me to accept that, though, because there was a time I was living vicariously through my clients. Because therapy took me to a place that leveled me out, regulated me, helped me deal with some of the body mass dysmorphia I had, the depression, anxiety. And because it did all that for me, I wanted to be able to do all that for my clients. But they just wanted to come there to look at me most of the time.
Yeah.
So I got to a point where it's like, oh, God, just shut up and squat. Right? It wasn't, but when I finally went to school and got certified as a life coach, it changed everything, right? Because it was through that process that I learned everything that I was doing right, everything I wasn't doing at all, and everything I was doing absolutely wrong. See, I was too emotionally attached to an outcome or an agenda.
Gotcha, yeah.
Right? I was trying to take people to...
a lot of people do that.
Yeah, I was trying to take people to a place that I felt they needed to go. But getting a life coach, because that's the other part. Yes, I still currently have a therapist. I also have a life coach and also have a group, an emotional support group that I talk with
that.
and see not as consistent as therapy and coaching.
Right.
And so, as I was saying, if I didn't learn how to stay outside the box, as we call it, and not be tied to an outcome and not have an agenda, it would have been a lot harder for me to stay in this space.
Right.
Because I was taking on all the emotions of my
sure.
clients.
Yeah.
Because I felt like they were a reflection of me.
Right.
Because I'm like, if you're not going to solve the problem, at least actually drop that 100 pounds and do the work. But I had to realize if I set the agenda and I set the outcome, then I'm doing that for me. I'm not doing it for them.
Right.
And so I've learned to stay outside the box. And now I hold a non-judgmental, confidential, safe place for individuals to just unpack stuff.
Yeah.
And
which we need.
Create the buy-in. So absolutely I have a therapist.
Yeah.
And absolutely I have a coach. And they both serve a very powerful purpose in my life. I'm grateful for them. And they just help me stay focused. And I'm just so passionate about this work.
Yeah.
I can talk about it all day.
No, I love it.
And I'm actually grateful because it's a very powerful tool that I have that I can use to support people. And like I said, help them create the life they want or figure out how to enjoy the one they have.
I love that. I love that. So since, Will, you are a life coach and potentially have all the answers to living, your best and better life, I'm going to ask you specific questions and just about, living in New York City, some things that kind of come up in a New Yorker's life and how we can handle those situations a little bit better. So the first one is going to be, very fitting for today, it being like 30 degrees, seasonal depression, how we handle that. Because I feel like for me, it just winter, it sneaks up on me because you catch me spring, summer, fall. I am that chick that's like, seasonal depression, what? It doesn't affect me. I'm just a fun-loving girl. And I feel like when, even the beginning of winter, it's holiday season, right? So you have, the decor. It's like there's that fun buzz in the city because everything's decorated so pretty. So, okay, winter's not too bad. But then mid-January comes and it's like, fuck, I hate it here. I hate everything. It's gray. It's cold. I don't want to leave my apartment. I don't want to socialize. But then it's like if you stay in your apartment and not talk to anyone, then it's like, okay, well, welcome seasonal depression, And then just even looking outside the window and it's all gray, that also I feel like brings on the seasonal depression. So what would your advice be to someone who is just, in the middle of, their seasonal depression and they don't know what to do next?
Okay, well, first I'm going to start by saying is I don't have the answers.
Okay.
What I do is I help people find the answers because they already have the answers. It's just whether or not you're confident or trust the answers you have. Right? And as a coach, I also don't give advice.
Okay.
But what I can say to my personal experience and things that I have, or conversations I've had with clients about things like seasonal depression or just depression in general is it's a personal thing. A lot of times we see people experiencing it is because of the story they tell themselves about what they should or shouldn't be doing around the holidays. I try to sum up seasonal depression for people when they ask me, so how do you feel about it? I say, well, think of it like this. Let's say Thanksgiving's coming around. If you're sitting in your house saying to yourself, I have to go, then you probably should just stay home.
I love that.
A lot of seasonal depression, and I don't want to minimize it or speak to any truths to anybody. I said it's more my experience and the conversations I've had with individuals. The overall consensus is it's just the feeling of thinking about what you don't have or constantly thinking about what you're supposed to do.
Gotcha. Okay, that's a good way of putting it.
What's helped me with my experience with it is standing in your truth, right? Life is hard, but it doesn't have to be stressful.
Right.
And I always say the most powerful weapon we have is choice. And if you would look at decisions you make from a place of standing in your truth, maybe there's certain things that you will be encouraged to no longer do.
Yeah.
Like feeling like you have to go somewhere. Like I tend to stay by myself during the holidays because I often get a lot of really bad seasonal depression. And there's a lot of things right around the time of year. Things that it gets dark, it's cold, all holidays, and you just feel like you got to buy gifts and do all that. And I'm like, if you're struggling like that, just don't do it.
Right.
Just don't do it.
Well, yeah, and especially I think it probably
Give yourself permission to say no, and it will make a tremendous change in your life.
Well, and it could. I mean, you bring up family a few times. I mean, even people that might, some holidays for some people are really difficult because they might not have that, like, maybe picture perfect family, that you see in movies and TV shows. So the holidays aren't that fun. So that could maybe also just be the start of maybe seasonal depression, too, once the holidays start coming.
When I hear clients, friends, whomever say to me, it's like, well, I got to go because then my grandmother's going to be upset. I'm like, well, she lived her life. Why don't you live yours?
I love that.
Now,
Sorry,
if I'm
Grandma.
in a coaching session and that comes up, and I said, well, how true is it that you have to go?
Yeah.
What is the story you tell yourself about wanting to stay home?
I love that.
What will happen if you just say no and stay home?
Right. You'll probably be a lot happier.
The question is probably worded a little differently,
Right.
but it's to that effect.
Yeah.
Right? It's to that effect. Just live in your truth.
Yeah.
I see this huge struggle between two perspectives, freedom and escaping, right? And I often use that perspective to help individuals kind of figure out what's the motivation behind some of the things that they do. Freedom is the power to choose.
Right.
And escaping is running from the truth.
It is.
So
literally.
if you're gonna go hang around friends, be around family, and create levels of resentment, frustration, and anger, why don't you just do something else?
Yeah, do something for you.
Do something for you and see how that might change the complexity of your life.
Yeah.
Because you've heard me say this, how you do anything is probably how you do everything.
Right.
And don't think it's only in those moments. Oh, I have to go because my mom's going to be upset.
Right.
Because I got to see the crazy uncle.
Yeah.
You know, because my friends are going to judge me or my family going to be upset.
Right.
That energy is not just for that.
No.
That energy, that mindset will show up in other areas of your life.
Wow. Very powerful. I feel like everything you're saying goes with your sweatshirt. What does your sweatshirt say?
Oh, my. So I have recently launched a brand.
Yes.
It's about 3 weeks old.
Okay.
And it's called I Am Selfish.
Yeah.
And it's two things. Well, there was three things. One, it's a movement. Mm-hmm. Two, it's a radical approach to self-care. And three, it's a daily affirmation to give yourself permission to prioritize yourself.
Yeah.
Put yourself first. So when you wear a T-shirt, get a book bag, whatever it is, just when you think about I am self-ish, it reminds you that you have the permission, or give yourself permission, because you do have the right to put yourself first.
Focus on you and take care of yourself.
You know, we too many people still live with this old mentality of treat others the way you want to be treated. As a life coach, I offer the perspective of what would it look like if you treated yourself the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
Don't live for the standard, hoping to get validation, hoping to get seen or heard or some form of reciprocation. Create those boundaries, create those standards.
It's so important.
You know?
It's very important.
So that's I Am Selfish.
Okay, I love it. Okay, so this is going to be a topic where I think it doesn't apply just to New Yorkers. It's really anyone that's a workaholic. No offense, Dad. My dad falls into this category. But it's trying to find the work-life balance. But especially I feel with New Yorkers, you know, people come to this city and they're like, wow, there's such a buzz, there's an energy, people are just going. And then I feel like it attracts people, then people move here, and then they start doing it, right? I mean, I'm just speaking from my own experience. That's exactly what I did. And then as soon as I touched down here and moved in, it was like going out every night, brunches every weekend, but then like work too, work. You know, and it's a lot. And then you look at even this week, my calendar, fully stacked with things going on in my personal life and professional life. And you know, that burnout is very real. I feel like a lot of New Yorkers experience being like burnt out and exhaustion. So is there any tips you have, or, you know, what would you say to someone that's a client of yours that's saying, you know, well, I cannot find that work-life balance. I'm struggling, but I have to find it.
First of all, that's a great referral. Any individual looking to create some work-life balance,
okay,
awesome referral.
Okay, great.
So anyone who's listening,
call Will.
you want to figure out how to create some work-life balance? Let's sit down and have that conversation.
Okay.
All things is personal, right?
Right.
There's always a certain element of how you personalize your approach to life and your mindset when it comes to life. When I'm working with an individual, and the overall mindset or perspective that I offer individuals is going back to what I said before, standing in your truth. Work-life balance tends to be a direct relationship with goals and intentions. And I offer a lot of dual perspectives in my coaching practice because most of us are always caught up in those blurred lines.
Yeah.
And as much as goals and intentions are one and the same, they're actually distinctly different. And when you can understand the difference between the two with that self-awareness, then you have the emotional intelligence to know when you're doing one or going after the other. And so what is a goal? A goal is a destination, right? I want to have a big house. I want to have a big car, a nice car. I want to have land. I have to have X amount of money in the bank.
Yeah.
You know, but intentions is, how do you want to experience life? How do you want to, how do you want to enjoy life? You know, life is, as far as I know, so far, is the one thing we only get one chance.
Yeah.
That's it. And so how do you want to experience it? So when you understand the difference between a goal, which is just a destination, a point, something you want to achieve, and an intention, how you want to feel and experience life, maybe you will begin, or I'll say it'll give you a greater opportunity to create that work-life balance, because you realize, I just want a house, but it doesn't have to be big.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be huge.
Could be a one-bedroom condo.
Unless it's your client and you want the commission, it has to be the biggest house ever.
I only want 10 million and up.
The biggest
Come
house
on,
ever.
Don't hit me up if you're underneath.
But all things being equal,
Right.
but
No, that's so true, though. That's such a great way to put it. You don't have to get a 4-bedroom condo or that townhouse in West Village right now. You could just start off with maybe a studio or a 1-bedroom in Queens or in Brooklyn and work your way up.
because here's the thing. If that's your mindset, right? Goals, 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 and you don't understand the power of intentions,
Right.
you achieve that big house and you're sitting in it miserable,
I was just going to say.
resentful, angry.
You're probably happy.
And it's not good enough
for a
it's not
little,
good for anybody.
Yeah.
And it's never big enough. Because
No.
sometimes it's I always say in my coaching practice, my education and my experience is you don't coach the story. You coach the energy.
Yeah.
Because we're gifted storytellers. And there's stories we tell ourselves about ourselves every single day.
Right.
We have the power to create interpretations, which is just the story you tell yourself to support a narrative.
Yeah.
Why do you work so much? Well, I have to because you're supposed to, right? Because I'm
Right.
going to create generational wealth and leave this for my kids. And sometimes I'm like, well, you don't even have children yet.
Yeah.
You're creating it for imaginary children?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's all
that's
about a
so-
mindset.
that's so good,
We have
yeah.
so many of us have such an all-in mindset that we don't even give ourselves the opportunity just to enjoy the moment, enjoy the time. When you understand
So true.
goals versus intentions, then it actually gives you the opportunity to create goals that end with a certain level of fulfillment.
Right.
And not like, wow, put in so much work, so much time, so much sacrifice. You achieve it, you get it, and you're like, really? And when that happens, it takes away the motivation and drive for the next goal, the next task.
Yeah.
So then we just become people who just settle or try to do whatever we can to hold on to what we have.
Right. It's just so crazy how we operate. As you know, I was just in Paris with my boyfriend in November. And, living in New York for a few years and then going there and just seeing how people work. I mean, it is so different. And we even looked at each other like, why the hell do we work 40 plus hours a week? The French, they don't even work 5 days a week. There's some restaurants where they're like, you know what? We're not even open on weekends. We're open 4 days a week. And those 4 days a week, we only, 2 hours for lunch and 2.5 for dinner. I mean, it's but it seems like, you know what? They're happier. They're enjoying their life a little bit more.
And so as a coach, my retort to that would be, or my response be, what is something new you learned about yourself from that experience?
Honestly, when I was away, I was very present. I wasn't really out on my phone as much, checking emails. And I was just so much lighter when I was there. And ever since I've got back, I'm still, answering my phone, answering emails, texts, doing all the things, of course, being a professional. But I'm also telling myself, you know what? I don't need to respond within 30 seconds. I can maybe take a few minutes, or if I'm in the middle of a task or a dinner, I'll reach out to this person once I get done with my dinner. I'm just going to stay present in this moment, and nothing bad is going to happen if I respond, 30 minutes later, in my personal opinion.
And that's the beginning of creating some work-life balance.
Yeah.
We often think that there is a difference between the things we do personally and things we do professionally. And that's why it's hard to create work-life balance, because we think all it takes is just... Now, I'm not diminishing what you just said. Sometimes we think it just takes saying, I'm going to say no. It's actually your ability to create not having to say no because it's already implemented into your lifestyle.
Right.
It's again, those dual perspectives, self-care, self-rejuvenation.
Yep.
Understand the difference.
Yep.
Self-rejuvenation is those moments you take where you feel like you need to get away and recharge.
Right.
Sometimes they can come at extreme moments like, I'm done. I need a break. I'm going for a walk.
Yeah.
Self-care is every Saturday I go for my walks, and that's my time.
Yeah.
And it creates habits
I love that.
because how you do anything is how you do everything.
Exactly. As you keep saying.
And how you see yourself is how you see the world. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I do as a coach. I offer people the opportunity to become more self-aware of how they're seeing themselves in the world.
Yeah.
And it's not about judgment, it's about opportunity. It's about when you are more self-aware of how you see yourself in the world, understanding that it has an ultimate effect of how you show up, experience, and process the world. Are you this way because you're self-aware? Or is it a default because that's how you were raised, that's what you were taught, and maybe you don't know the difference. A lot of times we make choices based on the options we see or believe we have or believe we deserve.
Okay, so this one is going to be a little bit more personal, like for me, but I'm having like similar conversations with, I think, just people my age, but even older too. But making new friends as an adult, I find to be a little bit more challenging. It's just not, as easy, when you had school and you're kind of like forced to make friends, right? Because these are the people that live near you. You're forced to go to school together. So you were just kind of forced to make friends. And that's how you survived going through school, college, whatever. And I feel like once, you're past that college, if you went, and you're more in the adult world, and as you get older, I'm in my 30s, and I do find it, challenging to find more, friends and like core people. I feel like it's very easy to have, surface level friendships, right? People that you just get along with, shoot the shit with, but I think as an adult, trying to find people where I'm like, okay, who are those people that I have like very deep relationships with, or people that I can just be fully my goofy, silly self with, And as you get older, I feel like that group gets smaller. What are your thoughts on that, or how can I make friends?
Well, first of all, I'm only 21.
Of course.
So I don't have much advice for that.
Right.
Well, I'll be 47 in March,
Okay.
next month. And I've gone through waves, right? When I was heavy in the church, the dynamics of my friendships and relationships were different.
Yeah.
When I was going through those, like I said, those dark days, the dynamic in my relationship with friends were different.
Right.
When I was working in the gym, my friendships and dynamics were different. Each stage of your life there's just gonna be different, right? A lot of my friends, well, most of them, like those real friends that I grew up with, the ones that I can't even remember when we became friends,
Right.
but we've been friends almost forever.
Yeah.
A lot of them are now married, moved away and stuff like that. We talk about creating new relationships and friendships. I'm gonna go back to what I said, stand in your truth.
Yeah.
Stand in your truth, because a lot of the friends and stuff that we have now, or have had now for a while, how true is that they're actually your friends anyway? Because it also depends upon how you define what a friend is.
Yeah, that's very true.
Right? But if, in all things, how can I say this? Never expect a life that you can't provide for yourself.
Okay.
A lot of times we sometimes want relationships to fill up holes that we don't have.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't have anything to do, so I'm going to hang out with this person.
Right.
Start doing that thing.
Yeah.
And don't allow anyone to tell you that it's not worth anything.
Right. That's a good way of looking at it, yeah.
Think about, put that passion lens on, right?
Yeah.
And think about some of the things that you've always wanted to do, but for some reason you create a story where I don't have time, I got to work, or it's silly.
Yeah. Or maybe
I'm
I
in
don't
that
have someone
place.
to go
I'm
do
in that
this
place
with.
now,
Yeah.
right? I just had a conversation with someone about I don't have any friends, and they were like, "What are you talking about? People love you." I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't say I didn't have people that didn't like me,
Right.
but when I look at what a friend is, I don't have that ride or die person anymore.
Yeah.
And maybe it is because I'm older and people moved away. A lot of those friends, the flimsy friendships, during quarantine, a lot of them fizzled out.
Right, of course.
So when I'm thinking about reestablishing social settings and friendships, take a knife skills class. That's something that I'm about to start doing. Go to a museum.
Okay, yeah.
Think about the things you love to do, because when you go to those places, there's going to be other people that love to do those things too.
And that could be your new friend.
I remember when I told some of my friends growing up, "Hey, you want to go to the Museum of Natural History?" They go, "You got a book report, dude?" I'm like, "No." I remember I was dating. I was on a date. I was introduced to someone, and this was like 30 years ago. I'm old enough to say that, right?
Yeah.
30 years ago. So I'm like 17,
Okay.
18 years old. And
Wild days.
a good friend of mine introduced me to this girl, and I'm thinking, I'm going to be all distinguished. I said, hey, would you like to go to the museum with me? She laughed at me.
No, poor Will.
Poor Will. I was devastated.
What a bitch.
To this day, I hate museums. No, I love museums. It's one of the, and so it's about reestablishing those things.
Right.
We talk about, I don't have friends, I don't have connections.
Not being attached to the outcome too, right?
That works in that principle too. And so I've had to remind myself, because like I said, I'm a product of my product, so I'm constantly have to remind myself.
Right.
I created this I Am Selfish movement just for that effect, right? I'm living this movement that I've since created. And so instead of me sitting around wondering why people aren't calling me, or who do I want to hang out with, and why people don't want to hang out anymore, and all my friends are married and I'm not, and they all have houses and all that, and I'm sitting in my Bronx apartment struggling to get out of quarantine, because I came out of quarantine 6 months ago, let's just be honest, right? I might have done less social distancing, but I've just came out of quarantine, so I'm feeling like, what is this place?
Yeah, who are these new people?
And there was a lot of resentment, frustration, and anger behind what am I going to do?
Right.
Out of quarantine. So it's one of the reasons why I stayed in longer, because the world changed and I changed and people changed while I was in it.
Totally.
So I told myself, just get out there. Yeah. So that would be a perspective I would offer an individual.
Okay.
What are the things you love to do?
Yeah.
What is that passion lens? What is that passion lens? Don't think that thing is silly.
Right.
I like sitting on the bench and people watching.
Yeah.
Go sit on the bench. I like to bird watch, whatever it is.
Right.
When
it doesn't
you
have to
can
be
figure out
like a party or going crazy and doing this just because other people
because you're trying to rinse, repeat the same formula.
Right.
Because you're afraid to be authentic, to be real. So go ahead, start doing those things you love to do. If it's going to a museum, go to a museum. There'll be other people there.
Right.
So figure out what those things are.
Yeah.
And let some organic relationships. But see, here's the caveat. Don't then try to bring them back into
the
other stuff.
Things. Yeah.
Keep them in there.
Like
lean into that more.
Yeah.
Don't say, hey, now I have somebody to do the other stuff that I probably really don't want to do.
Right.
Stay in that world.
Yeah. Maybe you just have your workout buddy, and then you got your museum friends, and then maybe you got brunch friend or whatever it is. And that's fine that you have friends for different reasons, right? And do different activities with. It's just making you happier. Yeah. Right?
So
everyone's happy.
Yeah. So my answer is probably always going to be the same. Stand in your truth.
Yeah. I like that. Okay. This is going to be a really fun section. Dating.
They've all been fun. Dating. Is my mic on? I would like it not to be.
But man, it's like dating, especially in New York City. I feel like it's quite an animal to take on. But let me just first start off. What are your thoughts about dating in today's world, post-COVID, and with all sorts of dating apps? And I mean, I feel like every week on the subway I see a new ad for a new dating app that wasn't around 6 months ago. Tell me, what do you think about everything?
I've spent very little time on dating apps in my life.
Okay.
And they've always been horrible. So that's when I'll give advice.
Okay.
Stay off of them.
Okay.
Because my experience when I was on them was, well, that's an interesting question now, because if I think about it, let's say when I first went on a dating app 100 years ago, that's my answer, I'm sticking with it.
Okay.
I found it to be a place that if you're someone who's really trying to make a connection with someone, it's the worst place to do it. It's the worst place to do it.
And why is that?
Well, we talked about this a little earlier. It's like being at an all-you-can-eat buffet. It sounds like a great idea till you start filling up them plates.
Yeah.
Because you keep
not
going.
Not that great of food.
It's just not
it's
great.
Stale.
It just
it's
doesn't
cold
work.
Now.
It just doesn't work. I've never had much healthy or success with dating. And a lot of that, before the story I told myself is, I haven't found the one. I haven't found the person. But I wasn't the person. I wasn't ready, right? And so when you're not ready and don't know what you really want, how are you going to find that in someone else?
Right.
Because then dating becomes something you use to fill in holes or to escape from something. Yes. So I'm going to give you the same answer.
Yeah.
Stand in your truth.
Right.
But also something I said earlier, never expect a life you cannot provide for yourself.
Yeah.
And in my experience from my clients and friends is that's the problem. Oftentimes we don't look for someone to compliment us. We look for someone to validate us or complete us.
Right.
And that's going to make it that much harder.
Well, and I think too with the dating apps, I mean, and this is like why I feel like Love is Blind, like, kind of popped off and started. But I feel like, with the dating apps, it's definitely very superficial and just, having like the right buzzwords for those answers or those questions that are like in Bumble or Hinge or whatever. And it, like you said, it's just like, how is that really like building a connection with that person? You're just seeing the best photos of them. And they probably got together. I mean, because I've done it too, where I got with my girlfriends. I'm like, hey, let's like think of some like witty, funny answers, and it's like, that's not that person. That's like 3 women.
It's a
putting
representative.
Together.
Just be you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, tell the truth.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I would tell you to stay off of them.
Right. But if
in
you're
all
on them,
things,
be truthful.
In all things, everything starts from the truth. And the truth always wins.
Yes. I'm going to give a shout out. Men, stop lying about your damn height. It's fucking annoying. Just put your real height.
I am 6 feet.
It's always the people, too, around the 6 feet. There's so many people that just
Everybody wants to be 6 feet.
Everyone's 6 feet, and it's like, no, you're 5'8".
People get mad when I'm saying 6 feet is not that tall.
It's not even that tall.
I don't think it is.
I don't
Everybody's
think it
like,
is
would you
either.
rather be 5'7"? I said, that's not what I said.
Yeah.
I got a cousin 6'6", an uncle 6'5". I'm like, yes. Am I taller than all my siblings? Yeah.
No.
But I don't think 6 feet is that tall.
No, it's not that tall. And honestly, I'm gonna just give some love to my short kings out there. I went on a date with a really tall guy once, and it was so hard to even just like make out with him. I was like stepping on my toes. He's like bent. Oh, it was just very awkward and uncomfortable. Very nice guy, but too tall. Too tall.
Yeah. So when it comes to dating, like I said, everything starts from the truth.
Yeah.
And once again, never expect a life you cannot provide for yourself.
Yeah. But so what about, maybe my friends that, haven't gone on a date since like before COVID, and, maybe they were just thriving kind of like you in isolation and quarantine, and they're like, okay, now the world is pretty much open now. I should probably get out there. What would you tell someone where if they were to go, well, what do I do? How do I get out there?
Well, I would need a little more information.
Okay.
To help them. Because again, like I said, it's finding those barriers, those blocks.
Yeah.
What's the story you're
Like,
telling
what's
yourself?
paralyzing you?
What's the story you're telling yourself? What is
Right.
the mindset and belief that you have when it comes to dating and being in a relationship?
Yeah.
I can hold space as a coach to help them work through that. I don't have an opinion based on my own personal experience with dating and being in relationships, because true transparency, I've been in very few healthy relationships in my life. But that had everything to do with my accountability.
Right.
It's my struggle. I'm going to be 47 next month. I'm just learning how to hold space for someone in any kind of capacity that talks about dating. And it's scary.
Yeah.
I'm still struggling with it.
Right.
But I'm struggling with it. I used to try to blame the other individuals. Like, they weren't ready. I'm not choosing the right person. But I wasn't the right person.
Baggage. Right.
I wasn't the right person. Stand in your truth.
And I think, too, it's like if you go on dates and it doesn't work out, that's okay, right?
Exactly.
There's someone else out there. I also do believe, like, multiple people could make you very, very happy. It's not just like that one singular person that's out somewhere and you have to spend your, all these days and months finding them. I think there's a lot of people that can make you happy for many different reasons, but you just have to like put one foot in front of the other and just kind of like start with yourself.
Use those lenses.
Yeah.
Right? When you're approaching dating, you approach it from that fear lens, that obligation lens, or that passion lens.
Yeah.
Right? And remember, you think it's just because you have drive and purpose. That's not passion necessarily.
Right.
What's the story you tell yourself about dating? Oh, I have to find someone to have financial security.
Right. Or I
gotta
have to
children.
Have it by this time.
And I have to by this time. And then I have to have the ring and all that and all that. Cloud it.
Yeah.
It's
and
not
then
gonna.
here you are living this crazy, miserable life because you're
No.
just in your head, and that's probably what keeps you paralyzed from getting off the couch.
And accountability.
Yeah.
So start from that level of accountability, transparency. I'll give a quote. Good friend of mine,
Okay.
Kayla, shout out. I remember one time she's a trainer friend of mine, remember one time I was in the break room at New York Sports Club. This is a long time ago. And I was complaining about something. I don't necessarily remember what it was, but I know it had something to do with girls and dating.
Okay.
And she said, oh boy, let me tell you something, Will. She says, if it's more than one, it must be you. If it's more than one, it must be you.
If it's more than one, it must be you. So what does she mean?
What that means is I wanted this date. This guy was horrible. Well, since it was me, this girl was horrible. This girl was horrible. This girl was horrible. Maybe it's you.
Yeah.
If it's more than one, everybody. So you just
I see more than one.
That's your
Gotcha.
luck.
I see. Yes.
You just always get the bad ones.
Right.
Maybe
It's
there's
very,
an opportunity
victim
there.
mentality.
It's an opportunity to realize maybe it's in the process,
Yeah.
the choice, the mindset.
Right.
I've had little to no success in the dating arena, but it had everything to do with who I was as a person and things I still battle with.
Yeah.
But it starts from that place of true transparency, reflection, and accountability.
Right. And reflecting, I think, just on yourself.
Because no one's luck is that bad.
Right.
Every relationship, maybe you're just choosing from the wrong basket or wrong place or table or
prioritizing the
room.
wrong things, maybe.
Because you've set some kind of mindset or standard of understanding. And I'm
Right.
not telling anybody that I'm not trying to define your standards.
Yes.
I'm saying maybe you want to just reevaluate your approach to stuff.
Right.
Because as my good friend said, if it's more than one, it must be you. It must be you is not judgment, it's not shame. It probably was when she told me that.
Right.
Right? But later in life, as you mature and get a greater understanding, it's about how are you approaching it?
Okay, well, this has been so helpful, so insightful, and I love everything that you've said today, Will, and I know people listening to this are very, very appreciative of it. But we're going to wrap it up with some fun. So we're going to switch gears again. We're going to do rapid fire round of some questions. And, as you know, I'm kind of opinionated. I have my opinions too. So
I've never noticed.
So, if there's an answer you say, I might fight you on it if I disagree. So we'll see how it goes. But
Okay.
Let's see if we can get through this, and maybe
Let's go.
let's see how rapid fire this is. Okay, one best way to get around the city
Subway.
after today.
I mean, yeah. Because if I drove from the Bronx here, I'd still be in
that's
traffic.
true. I guess it depends maybe where you're coming
Well,
from.
I was about to say, I'm going to live in the Bronx. So for me, it's
Yeah.
the subway all day. But if
Right.
you're in Manhattan, walk, ride a bike. I'd be into that.
I'm gonna say I've been doing city bikes lately. Kind of nice, and
Right.
I live very close to the West Side Highway.
So it's all perspective.
It's very much
For me,
perspective.
it's the subway.
Yeah.
Post-quarantine, now that I'm
Except
not
today.
afraid to be on
Except today.
Yeah.
The C train kind of sucks.
Yeah.
If you had all the money in the world, what New York City neighborhood would you live in?
If I had all the money in the world, what New York City neighborhood?
I guess borough and neighborhood.
I would stay in the Bronx.
Yeah?
Yeah, I would.
Stay in the Bronx?
I would.
Okay. You
know-
don't want to view of Central Park and live on Central Park South
I'll
or
just
Central
get on
Park
the
West?
subway and go there. Because it's about the people in your neighborhood.
Right.
Like, I know. See, you said New York City. I'd probably move to Jersey. But
Oh my
since
God,
Jersey,
Jersey?
I kind of like that Jersey PA line, kind of like around that Strasburg kind of area. But
No, you lost me when you just brought up Jersey. No offense. Oh my God.
But if I'm staying in New York, I'll stay in the Bronx.
Okay.
Bronx all day. And I
Yeah,
just said
let's
Jersey
just
to
stick with
mess
the
you.
Bronx rather
I
than
said
Jersey.
Jersey to
Oh
mess
my
with
God.
you because I know you don't like
yeah,
it.
what are we talking about?
The Bronx.
Okay. Sorry,
I want
my
to
Jersey
spice it up a
friends.
little bit.
Yeah, jeez. Oh my God.
No, I would stay in the Bronx.
Okay.
I would.
Bronx. Okay. Pizza or bagels?
Pizza.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah,
The bagel
pizza.
people, I don't know. West Side or East Side on Manhattan?
I think there's better restaurants on the West.
Okay.
But I would live on the East before the West.
I actually fully agree with that because
Yeah.
I used to live on the East Side. Now I live on the West Side, and I kind of miss the East Side. Not
I
gonna
would
lie.
live on the East, but the restaurants are better on the
Yeah,
West.
I completely agree. Best sports stadium in New York City?
I haven't been to many. If you say stadiums and not arenas, because
Oh, well, I guess stadiums, arenas, like a sporting event or a concert.
I love the Barclays Center right here in this neighborhood.
Right.
It's, yeah.
I agree. Actually,
Barclay.
That's honestly probably
And
mine.
Citi Field.
Yes. And isn't it funny? Those aren't like the main staple places like MSG or
It's
Yankee
not because
Stadium.
I'm a Mets, Nets, and Jets fan. Because I know somebody, some of my friends, when they hear this, they be like, okay, here's the Jet fan.
Right.
And my Giant fans will be like,
Next.
of course he said
Right.
Citi Field. Well, it's newer. Well, when was Citi Field built, actually? It was.
Do not ask me that. I have no idea. Maybe I can
It doesn't
ask
matter.
my
It doesn't
the
matter.
supporting character, David. Could you look it up?
Because I believe it has the most recent renovations, right?
Well, and I think that's why I like Barclays better than MSG, even though MSG, I mean, it is 2 stops on the subway for me. It's such a great location. But I was just there on Monday. We need to upgrade MSG.
Yeah.
Entryway going up the escalators. What's going on? And why don't the escalators work after the fucking game? Why? I have actual questions on why it doesn't work going on the way down, but going up, we don't have issues.
But I've been to Barclays more than the Garden,
Okay.
and I've been to Yankee Stadium more than Citi Fields.
Okay.
But
we like Citi Field.
I think Citi Fields is better, and I think Barclays is better.
Yeah, I agree. Open toe shoes on the subway, yay or nay?
First of all, it just depends on how your feet look in general. But I don't know.
I asked this because someone told me this the other day, and look,
I mean, you can put a Croc on it, but
No.
the flip flops, I don't know about
oh my
that.
gosh, no. Okay, so someone called me out on it like recently, and I was like, oh, do people not do that? So that's why I'm asking for a friend, but I'm maybe asking for myself.
I'm not talking about whether or not you have toenail polish. I'm talking about the structure of your actual foot. I got to think about feet and teeth.
Right, yeah. Is it straight edge or is it jagged on those toenails?
I mean,
you know?
Yeah, I think some people wear flip flops because they can't put shoes on. And since I'm not directly shaming or judging anybody, to answer your question, probably want to cover them up.
Right, let's just cover them
Just
up.
cover them
Be
up.
safe.
Just-
Okay.
Split the difference. Just
Yeah.
cover them up. So no one can be like, ooh.
Right. Best New York City rapper of all time.
I was going to say Biggie.
That was probably like my other one going between.
I was going
the
to
two.
say Biggie. I can't say Tupac. Not because I can't, because I think Biggie is the truth. It's
Yeah.
Biggie.
No, I love Biggie too.
It's Biggie. Jay-Z probably has more hits.
Right. More like.
But I think just
mainstream.
because he's had the longevity, because unfortunately we know what happened with Biggie.
Yeah.
Jay-Z historically has more hits. Biggie has them bangers.
Bangers.
If I do a list of all-time stuff, Biggie
Yeah.
wins for me.
Okay. Love
Biggie
it.
wins.
Where in New York City are you going for a drink? Where's
I
your
like
go-to
I
spot?
like a good dive bar. All the places I love no longer exist.
Oh.
Some of them closed before the pandemic. Some of them closed because of the pandemic. But I had a real spot, 2 spots that I've loved.
Okay. What are they?
It was actually Choice that was right over in Murray Hill
Okay.
on 2nd Avenue.
Murray Thrill. Okay.
Yeah, Murray Hill is owned by the same family, same group. And Uptown Lounge, when it closed, it was called Two Doors, but Uptown Lounge right on 88th and 3rd Avenue. On the Upper East Side, I have a
You do
Deep-
love the East Side.
a deep emotional connection to that place.
Really?
There was a stretch where I used to throw huge parties there all the time.
Really?
There was a stretch of about 7 or 8 years where I used to throw big birthday parties in this bar. I mean, we're talking about between an average of 90 people every party. My parties, I'd have about like 3 or 4 parties a year,
Okay.
and my parties were so big that they put me on their financial projections. They looked forward to
Really?
it. That's how big these parties
Wow.
are. So, and it was a place that I escaped to. They treated me very well.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And so
And
I'm
it's
forever.
still there?
It
Or
is
not?
no longer there.
Okay.
When-
What is there now? Do you know?
a sushi restaurant.
Sushi.
Yeah. So it will be Choice in Murray Hill, which I don't know if it's still there,
Okay.
and Uptown Lounge. That eventually was Two Doors.
Gotcha.
And then, yeah, so.
Not sushi.
I
Get your,
like a
get your
good,
sake there.
I like a good dive bar, kind of
Yeah.
loungy dive bar.
I like that vibe too.
I like when
Dark.
they don't know if they're a lounge or a dive bar. It usually is great.
Yeah. I like that too.
Yeah.
Favorite New York City film?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever been asked this question in my life.
Really? I mean, there's so many.
Because I might say Gangs of New York.
Okay.
That's a amazing film.
Yeah.
But was it actually filmed in New York?
Yeah, Yeah, I guess it's like
The Warriors is a good one.
any film that was like based in
Warriors
New York
is
City.
a good one.
I mean, it's newer, but I loved Wolf of Wall Street. I think that got me very excited about like living in New York City and that kind of vibe.
But see, that's the
even
question.
though I'm not working in finance.
Are we talking about movies that were actually filmed in New York or movies that were based on places in New York?
I would say based in New York City. New York's in the
Then
back.
it's The Gangs of New York.
Okay.
That movie is just fantastic.
Okay. I don't think I've seen that, so I need to put that on my list.
You got to do it.
Okay. Island life or city life, if you had to choose?
Because I'm more laid back in nature, and like I prefer being laid back, but I can't swim and I don't like the sand, so I'm gonna say New York.
Okay. City life.
City life.
And I had to end with this one.
What?
Worst subway line.
The 7 train.
Really?
I don't.
Wait, you know the rankings just came out,
Wait,
right?
but it's probably
that was like
the
actually
AOC.
the number. That was the number
the
one
ranking
train.
was probably the number. Was the number one?
It was not number one, and I wasn't surprised with the number one because I also
What is
don't
the
like
number
this
one?
line.
Because I know the 7 was once the worst one.
The F line. The
Who
worst.
rides the F train?
No, that's what I'm saying. But it's literally the worst. I remember the last
That's
time
why it's the worst. Why
last
fix
time
it? No one's gonna
the
ride
last
it
time I was
anyway.
on the F line, they like dropped me off somewhere in like Lower East Side or something. They were like, "Hey, we're just stopping here. We're not taking you to IKEA, so just get off here." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So then I had to call an Uber from that station to IKEA.
And this isn't going to be based on my experience today.
Yeah.
But the worst experiences I've ever had is always on the blue lines. What is that? The
ACE.
ACE has always been. Whenever I go to Brooklyn, take the red line.
Yeah.
Take the 2, 3,
No,
or
I
5 to
will
Brooklyn.
say the
It'll
red
be a
line
better
is-
experience.
the red line is pretty-
But that's the one I grew up on.
Yeah, it's
2
pretty-
train uptown, baby.
Yeah, and you know what? I kind of like the green line too because that was on the east side. I felt like that was kind of live. But the 6 train gets like way
in my
too
life,
crowded.
I've only lived in the Bronx on the red and the green.
Okay.
So I lived on
Those are your lifelines.
I lived on the 2, grew up on the 2 train. My stop was 219th on the 2 train. I would use the 5 a lot to go into the city, so the 2 and 5 were my trains. I lived for a while on the 4 train.
Okay.
And now I've been on the 6 train for the last 16 years. So
Okay.
green and red.
Yeah, love it. Like Christmas.
There you
Happy
go.
times.
Happy times for some people.
For some. For some.
people.
Okay. Well, this
yeah.
has been great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And I had such a great time talking with you.
I as well. I'm so grateful for this opportunity and get to talk to you. And it's been fun. I can't wait till the next time.
Of course. And where can people find you if they want to hit you up for some life coaching, maybe personal fitness? Where can they find you?
You can go to my website, www.coreremastered.com. So that's 3 W's. Core, the foundation of your strength, remastered.com.
Love it. Thank you, Will. We'll talk to you soon.
I'll be here. Bye.
Bye.